Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's edition of HR Learning Mentorship Learning Series. And we have someone who is not a stranger, one of our co-administrators, Omobola Showemimo. She is the HR manager at Trino Studios. And the topic for today is fundamentals of job analysis. And she'll be running us through. And at this point, it's my privilege and pleasure to hand over control to a colleague, a sister, a friend. And I'd like to say happy International HR Day, Omobola, and happy International HR Day to everyone.
To everybody.
In this program today. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And I think it's only right that I start with to say that this topic, we should have taken it long time ago, but for different reasons that were beyond myself and Ogayemi, we couldn't. So that's why it's coming to the board. Like they always say, better be late than never. So thank you, everyone. It's a privilege that I'm doing this. I usually don't like doing it, but I guess it's part of the journey in our HR, because at some point we all have to learn to give back to everyone. And I am a firm believer that everybody has something we can learn from. Everybody has something they can share. So I'll just be talking about fundamentals of job analysis. I'm just going to touch the basics, because I've been doing a bit of study on this particular, well, I would say topic or aspect of HR, and I realize it's a lot. It's quite, it's deep, it's wide, and there is a whole lot we need to learn from this topic. So I'm just going to talk about understanding why we should do job analysis, the processes, the methods. Why is job analysis useful to us? Maybe some of the challenges we are even facing in our various organizations, it could be as a result of us not having a proper job analysis in place, because the truth of the matter is, I'm sure some of us would have experienced it, that when we bring in a talent on board, at some point you realize that, okay, it looks as if this is a round peg in a square hole. Usually that happens when we don't have our job analysis intact, when we do not do a proper job analysis. So I'm not here to discredit any processes that people have been doing before. I'm just here to share my own thoughts, my own understanding about it. We are free to do more research. And like I always say, there is context to everything. So my organization, our processes, our staff strength, our structure is different from every other organization. Every organization is unique, is peculiar. So most of the time when we talk about when we have this kind of discussion, there is a room for you to what I'm trying to say is, you need to go back and see how it can fit into your own organization. It doesn't mean that everything I'm saying here has to be the ABC for your organization. No, it doesn't always work like that. So I'll jump into the conversation. So I've been doing a bit of introduction, but I think I would still just go further. So job analysis is all about you just determining, okay, so pardon my noise. I live in a compound where we have a lot of children, so please just ignore their noises. Thank you. So like I said, so there is a vacancy. No, not, well, okay, let me start from that. Yes, there is a vacancy, and you want to determine who you should bring in. Of course, I know some of us are familiar with the term job description, job specification, and all that. So those are part of job analysis, because you want to be sure that I'm bringing in Mr. Lagbaja to come and do this specific duties. So Mr. Lagbaja is going to be an executive assistant to the CEO. So you want to be sure that Mr. Lagbaja is actually coming to do an executive assistant duty, not an administrative duty. Because sometimes some of these job roles, it's a thin line in their duties. You see in some organization, there's always a lap over. So people move easily into, okay, A is doing the job for B, and B is doing the job for A. Sometimes it's because we do not have a clear-cut definition of what the duties are. So that's what job analysis will do for us. It will help us to determine the duties and the nature of job, the kind of people as well too, the kind of people we should bring on board. It is very, very important. See, you cannot, someone who is supposed to be a marketer, someone who is supposed to be a salesperson, there are certain characteristics that fits those people. Yes, I know that we said that, okay, so even if this is not you, you can train yourself. I agree. And that's absolutely right. Yes, we can train ourselves. But see, some people are natural marketer. Some people are natural salespeople. So those are the kind. So you need to know the kind of people you should hire for that kind of job. So that's what job analysis is talking about. It helps you to write job description and job specification, which is what you would use during recruitment, selection, compensation, performance appraisal, and training. Importantly, once you get your job analysis right, your recruitment would not go wrong. I'm very, very certain of that. Your recruitment would not go wrong. So today, I'm going to talk about the definition, the purpose, method, process of conducting job analysis. So we're going to do a bit of touch on job description, job specification, and job evaluation as well too. Challenges of job analysis, of course, then our conclusion and our take home. So please, I'd like to see in the chat box, please encourage me, just encourage. I need encouragement, please just encourage me in the chat box. Thank you. And if we have new people joining us for the first time, we'd like to get to know you. You can just introduce yourself, where you're listening to us from, maybe from Malawi, maybe from Canada, maybe from Kenya, Uganda, Nigeria, Lagos, Port Harcourt. We just want to get to know you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Ineka. Thank you, Ma Adiola. Thank you very much, Ma. I appreciate. So I'll go to the definition of our topic today. So it's just simple. It's very straightforward. So I decided to pick this straightforward definition, since we are just talking about the fundamentals. We say it's the process of breaking down jobs into specific tasks, identifying the knowledge, skills, and ability required to perform them. So it means that if the position of an account officer is open in my office. So no, let me not go through that route. So let's just imagine that, okay, it's a startup. We are just starting. We just want to open a bakery a top tier bakery in Lagos. So say somewhere in Ikoyi or somewhere in Lekki or maybe somewhere in Ikeja GRA. So we want to open a bakery. So I'm the owner of the business. I want to open a bakery. So am I just going to open a bakery, buy all the equipment, all the machineries needed and all that? Yes, I have all that. So how about the people resources? How about the human resources that needs to help me actualize my dream? So I have my shop already, or I have my warehouse, my baking house, whatever name we want to call it. I have it all sorted. I have my machineries and everything. So the people. So how do I know what they are coming to do? Now, I said a bakery. So my bakery could be, do I just want to be doing bread alone? Or I want to do bread and pastries? I need to figure all that. So when I figure all that, so if I'm doing bread alone, who do I need? What talent, what skills, what knowledge do I need in that area of business? Even if it is pastries too, who am I looking for? Am I looking for somebody? So, because sometimes someone who is specialized in pastry does not necessarily have the skill knowledge for bread. So even at that, do I want to get somebody who is who bakes agege bread somewhere in the looks and cranny of K2? Yes, there are all those local bakeries, they are there. So do I just want to get somebody like that? Or I want to get someone who actually went to a structured school that knows how to bake, say, banana bread, coconut bread, sardine bread. You just name all the different kind of breads you've encountered. So I need to know. That is why we say job analysis is the process of breaking the jobs down. So I need to break it down. So I want to have a bakery session. I want to have a pastry session. In my bakery session, what are the process from start to finish? So I'm thinking of procurement. I'm thinking of when I procure, I'm thinking of the kitchen. So the people that will mix the flours, from mixing the flours, the people that would, that would bake, they require different knowledge, different set of skill, different abilities, different knowing how to do those things. So I require those expertise. So when I've been able to break down those duties specifically, then I'm able to know the person I'm looking for. So somebody like some of the feedbacks we get. So somebody will put out a job vacancy for a geophysicist, or a mechanical engineer or a marine engineering skills, and somebody with accounting will be sending CV. Like, how do they relate? A marine skills is needed, marine engineering skills is needed, and you're an accountant. Because how does it add up together? Thank God the recruiter knows what she wants or what he wants, because if the recruiter does not know what he wants, then he would accept the CV for an accountant. And in the world, what does an accountant know when it comes to engineering world? It's different. So that's what job analysis does for us. So how can we conduct job analysis? There are numerous ways we can conduct it. So one of the ways we conduct job analysis is through questionnaires, interviews, surveys. Even in your current organization, if you decide that, okay, see, I want to restructure our job description, I want to be sure that truly we have the right people that we are supposed to have, we have them on board. So what do you do in that kind of situation? You go around the department, you ask questions, interview. You can put out a questionnaire. Okay, so what does the question would be, okay, what would be in the questionnaire, or what kind of questions would you ask in an interview? You ask about the everyday activities on that job. So I'm a I'm a supply chain executive. You want to do a job analysis, or you want to conduct a job analysis on my job. You come to the department. You begin to ask everybody one after the other. So run me through your everyday activity. You resume 8 o'clock and you close 5 o'clock. Tell me what you do, all the things. Now, at this stage, you're not looking for important or non-important. You're actually looking for everything. Everything they tell you, whether it makes sense, whether it doesn't make sense, are the things you jot down, because those are the things that will help you to understand that job role. Because once you understand that job role, then you're able to conduct a proper job analysis. So these are the kind of questions you will have in your questionnaire or during interview or just by observation. So you go to the department, maybe you do 2 days or 3 days with them. It depends on what works for you. And you just observe them. You observe how they move things. You observe how they communicate. You observe how they respond to issues. You observe how they come up with solutions to challenges, or how they suggest all those things. By the time you spend 3 days, or by the time you spend a certain amount of time on observation, you'll be able to deduce, okay, this and this and this is what an executive in this level, at this role, at this stage, this and this is what they do. So you're jotting it down. You're jotting it down. So because everything you're jotting down, you go back and you begin to add them together. You begin to fix the puzzles together. You begin to connect the dots together. Okay, so the purpose of job analysis, you could say objective, usefulness, whatever name you want to give to it. So as we can see, for job description, it helps you to know, on how to describe that job. When you grasp the job analysis from, remember I said that when in your observation, you begin to see what they're doing. You begin to see how the processes in that unit, from your questions, from your interaction, you know that, okay, this and someone that would thrive, that would function well on this job, needs to have this certain level of skill, needs to have this certain level of knowledge, needs to be able to handle communication at a certain level, needs to be able, the person's analytical skills has to be at this level. So those are the things you list in your job description. So for example, the ones we are common, so to be able to prepare income statements at the end of the month, it is when you observe that you know that, okay, on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis, there's supposed to be a bank reconciliation in the accounts department. So they're supposed to reconcile what is the transaction in the bank with what they have at the office. So you know that. So when you're looking for an account executive, so you're saying something like to be able to prepare, to be able to conduct bank reconciliation and all that. Job specification, you're talking about, okay, the characteristics of the person that will fit into the role. I'm not looking for a BA in Yoruba, someone who studied Yoruba, to come and be my account executive, or possible. I'm not looking for someone who studied accounting to come and be my general, my pharmacist. It's not possible. Job specification. It helps you. It's also useful for job evaluation. Now, job evaluation talks about that job the person is coming to do. How do we evaluate it? How do we know the what of the job? How do we know what should we expect this person to deliver to us from the job? And that job analysis also helps us to determine training needs. When your job analysis is right, performance appraisal would not go wrong. And once performance appraisal does not go wrong, you are able to determine your training need from that. Because most times I've seen HR will tell you that, okay, I think this person should go for this kind of training. And I'm asking myself, how do you justify that the person should actually go for that kind of training? How did you know? Do you have proofs? Do you have evidence to prove that truly this person is lacking? There is a skill gap in this area and we need to cover it up. Because most times our performance appraisal should actually feed into our training needs. Our performance appraisal should show where the gaps are. And it is those gaps that we need to fill when we're talking of training. I'm not saying that we can't determine training need outside performance appraisal. That's not what I'm saying. My emphasis is let our training needs be scientific. Yes, let me use the word be scientific. That means there is a process to it. Not that I just feel that, okay, Bola is not good with Excel. So the question is, how am I sure that Bola is not good with Excel? I should be able to, there should be a trail to show that Bola is not good with Excel. So job analysis also helps us when it comes to compensation. So how do I know I should pay? How do I know I should pay? This is a fair compensation for this job role. Job analysis will help us to determine that. In job evaluation, there is a part where we're able to determine the relative worth of that job. So what you pay an executive, no, what you pay an officer, a junior officer, would definitely be different from a senior officer. But the question is, sometimes before I got to understand all this I'm talking about, I always ask myself that, how do you justify that? But in the course of my career and the things I've been exposed to, I'm able to understand that, okay, so there is a way, there is actually a scientific way where you can determine, or no, where you can justify that a senior manager should earn this amount. And let me even shock you further. You can have two senior managers, but earning on the same level, but earning different amounts of salary at the end of the day. That's a different conversation for another day. So job analysis also helps us with our selection procedure. Like I mentioned that in my introduction. Once our job analysis is intact, selection becomes easy. You're not confused as to who you should pick. You're not confused at who you should select, because you already have your criteria. You already have your checklist, and once you're ticking it, you're good to go. So also I've mentioned about performance evaluation, and so these are just few of the purpose of job analysis. Like I said, it's not limited. There's a whole lot of information out there that we can still research on. So I'll be talking about methods. So yes, I've mentioned this in the course of my earlier discussion, but I'll just do a bit of a summary here. So like I said, method of conducting job analysis. We mentioned observation. You go to the unit, you observe how things are being done. You go, let's say, like I use the example that I want to set up a bakery. So what I can do is, I can go to another bakery outfit, and I can just spend some couple of days in their kitchen, in their office, to see how things are being done. Of course, I will see a whole lot of things. I would understand the job. I would learn some things that people, because sometimes when we ask questions, people can tend to give you the response they know you want to hear. But by observation, by not saying anything, by just observing what is being done, you tend to see a whole lot. I'm sure even the ones that you're not supposed to see, you get to see them. And that's the beauty of observation. So you understand the job, you understand the responsibilities, the task elements, what the skills needed, the tools that are needed to be able to effectively carry out those duties. You observe them, you see everything. Same thing. So for interview, you can conduct one-on-one review. So someone that is on that job already, you can have a one-on-one interaction with the person. So review the job content. Like I said, if you just decide that, okay, I want to review our job description, all the job description we have. I want, as HR, I want to see if they are if there is a room for adjustment or we should change them. You can ask the people doing it already. Okay, run me through your activities, run me through how you get this done. And they begin to give you questions, they begin to give you answers, they begin to converse with you. That way, you're able to understand the job as well. Also, you can have conversation with the incumbent or the supervisor. Have discussions with the supervisor. The supervisor know more about the job, because remember, they are the one in charge of the unit. They are the one in charge of the processes. So they understand, they know. So you don't want to do a job analysis behind any team lead, any supervisor. You will be frustrated. Whether you're a consultant or whether you're in-house, whether you're an outside consultant or you're an in-house consultant, if you don't carry this stakeholder along, they will frustrate you. So you can do that. It's structured. So you have your questions. Before you go, you have some structured questions you want to ask them. And those questions should be tailored at understanding the job process, understanding the job itself. Same thing with questionnaire rather. You can just have a broad sheet of questions to ask. Now, the question can be, in questionnaire, it can be that, okay, you want to know which is important or which comes in order of priority. So say someone at the level of a junior officer, you want to understand that the person's analytical skills, what should he rate? Is it between 1 to 5 or 5 to 10? That would help you to know that, okay, so if I'm conducting my interview, I'm looking for someone, when it comes to analytics, the person is between 8 and 10. It opens you up to that. So you have a written set of questionnaires regarding the job content. Always have your questions before you go. I've been in an exercise where, because we didn't have our questions, we were thrown off balance. In fact, it was a mess. It was a mess. If we had our questions, when the conversation was tending to go the other way, we can redirect it back because we had a guideline that was guiding us. So it's always important. It is very, very important that you have those questions ready. Now, a written set of questions regarding job content that requires the incumbent to prepare a narrative response or that limit response to the predetermined set of answers. Like I said, I like the example I gave, that we were involved in an exercise where, in fact, they took the conversation out of our hands. If we had our questions ready, our questions would have guided our incumbents on how we wanted them to respond. It would not just have been that they begin to tell me stories that are not necessary. So you want to have your questionnaires right. The last here is you can bring in a technical person, someone who is an expert in this field, to come and conduct the job analysis for you. So they you know, it's been a practice for them. So they have a wealth of knowledge where they can draw from on how to go about the processes. So process of just a minute. Process of gathering. So this process is all about how you gather your, yes, it's still the same thing in conducting job, when you're conducting your job analysis. So this is how you go about gathering all the information needed, how you go about it. So step one, identify the job that needs to be analyzed. There is no point saying that, okay, I want to do job analysis, and we'll just start like that. No, there has to be some paperwork, there has to be some background work on how you're going to go about it. What is your, what's the first thing? Where do you start from? The next step, the next step, the next step. Because remember, I said, I'll still refer back to my example. If you don't have the things you want to achieve, you want to get, you can get lost on the journey, and you don't want that, because this job analysis, trust me, is very, very time consuming. If you engage in it, it is draining. It takes a lot of time, and it requires quite a number of resources from people as well too. So your first step is to determine which job needs to be analyzed, in what order. You need to know. You don't want to maybe you have job A, and from job A you're jumping to job F. It can be distorting, it can be draining for you. So you want to know, how do you want to do? Do you just want to start with the junior level? Do you want to start with the middle management? The bottom line is, know the job, identify it. This is the job we want to identify. Then that job that needs to be identified, gather data on the job. You need to gather data. There is a need to gather data. So when we say gather data, gathering data means that the data you're gathering will form the questions you're going to ask. It will form, you can also use, yes, it will form it, and it will also help you determine the techniques of what you use. So for example, a particular job might just require that you just do observation, or maybe you do both observation and questionnaire, or maybe you do observation, interview, and questionnaire. It depends. It is in the place of gathering data. You know what the kind of techniques you need to use. So for example, maybe you also want to look at the existing job description you have. You want to scrutinize it. You want to begin to ask questions using the job description you have to gather more data. So it could either be primary data or secondary data. So primary data could be that, okay, you're having conversation with the people on the job, or you want to go online and seek, look at other job description, or what the internet has to say about that job role. So, but what we are doing at the step 2 here is we are gathering the data. Step 3, we organize it. We need to organize the data. You know, data is in its raw form. We can't make decision with data when it is in its raw form. We need to organize it to be able to interpret it, and that when we interpret it, that's where we are able to make decisions. So you need to organize your job data at this point. Step 4, analyze it. So when we've organized our data, we need to analyze it. We need to ask questions. We need to understand the function. We need to understand the knowledge that is required for the job. We also need to understand whether this job is physically demanding or mentally demanding. We need to understand the working condition of that job. So for example, a job that requires heavy lifting duties, that kind of job, you want to be careful that you don't bring a woman into it. Or let's say, yes, you don't want to bring a woman into it. So for example, a job that requires you carrying heavy things every day. If you bring a woman into it, even yes, she's qualified, she's the right fit, blah, blah, blah. With time, because of the nature, because of the physiological nature of a woman, she will get tired compared to men. So analyzing our job data will help us to know all this. Then the fifth step here is to finalize and document the job analysis. So when we've done all this, so we know the duties, the responsibilities, the set of people, the kind of persons, we know the working condition, we know the tools that is needed to be able to deliver on this job. When we know all that, then we document it. That is when we have completed our exercise on that particular job role. So I'll just, I'll touch on job description and job specification. And that's because job description and job specification are sub-topic under job analysis. It's a fallout from job analysis. So because if you just, if you pick job description or job specification out of the blues without having to understand the concept of job analysis, you might not appreciate what you're doing. You might not appreciate the result of what you're getting. And so, like I've mentioned in the course of my discussion, job description is just focusing on the job itself. It focuses on the job itself, the duties, the activities to be performed on the job by the employee. So it's not it's not saying that the person, job description is not saying the person has to have a PhD degree. That's not job description. That's not job description, because it's not focusing on the job. Focusing on the job is ability to be able to ability to be able to recruit, ability to be able to prepare financial statement, ability to be able to operate a drilling machine. That is the job itself. That is the focus on the job. So like I said, it also describes the relationship between the job and the other job profile, the tools, the equipment which the employee would use to perform the job. So for example, like I said, ability to be able to operate a drilling machine, ability to be able to, ability to be able to prepare a trading and a profit and loss statement. That is the job itself. While job specification is talking about the person who is going to execute the job. So someone I'm looking for a BSc holder to perform this job. I'm looking for someone who has ACCA certification to perform this job. That is job specification. I'm looking for someone with details, with eyes for details. That is job specification. I'm looking for someone who can so you're talking about social, behavioral, psychological characteristics of the job holder. So someone who is outgoing, someone who is, so some people would say people that are eloquent in some language. That is job specification. That is job specification for you. Ability to be able to speak in other language, in a two or more foreign language. That is job specification for you. So that's the difference between job description and job specification. So the beauty is, when in our document, usually we merge job description and job specification together. They are like a single document. Most times, most job vacancies we see, when we see the focus on the job, then we'll now see requirements. A BSc holder, professional certification will be an advantage. And bilingual, multilingual, with ability to speak other language would be an advantage. That's job specification. So we merge the two together. So it's not like it's a separate document, and usually they are all in one document. Okay, so this is just to give you more in a practical layman language. Job description. So we have the job summary, the job title, the duties, machine tools, materials, equipment, working condition, hazard, supervision specification, and all that. So job specification, we're talking about qualification of the employee, experience, train, maybe the person has undergone a particular kind of training. We're talking about that: physical effort, communication, emotional characteristics, responsibilities. Like I said, this is just few of the items, few of the contents in each of this topic we're talking about. It depends on, it's not static, and it's not static. Let me just stay with the word like that. Your organization, your context will determine what will be in your job description and your job specification. Okay, so before I go to job evaluation, I want to see if we have any question or anyone who wants to draw me back, or is it okay? I can just. Okay, so someone said I sent a job ad for finance manager, someone that. Okay, yeah, well, we get that. You send a job for a finance manager, you get someone with an HR experience. We all get that. So I guess it's because most employees also they can't tell. So that's the reason why, as HR, we should be able to explain to our team. Okay, so job evaluation. So one of the things job evaluation does for us is it helps us to design an equitable pay. It helps us to easily determine what I should pay someone, and if I'm paying the person.
One question, ma'am.
Yes,
hello,
sir.
ma'am. One question, ma'am.
Yes.
So somebody is saying that for a front desk position, do you really require a graduate just to analyze the job a little?
Okay, so like I said, first of all, your organization will determine if the front desk position should be someone with at a graduate level or not. Now, let me take the bakery business that I'm talking about. I just want to open a bakery. Now, I'll paint two scenarios for us. I want to open a bakery in Victoria Island, or somewhere in Ikoyi, or somewhere in Ikeja GRA. And I also want to open another bakery in somewhere in Ikorodu. Apologies to the people in Ikorodu, or somewhere in Alakpere Ketu. Now, the two branches are going to stand alone. Like, when I mean stand alone, they would have all their strength, their structure as one. I'm not doing like head office or branch office. No, they are all standing alone. So in Ikoyi, who are the kind of people, or what are the target markets for me in Ikoyi? What is the target market for me in Alakpere? Who are the kind of clients I'll be interacting with in Ikoyi? Who are the kind of clients I'll be interacting with in Alakpere? So in Ikoyi, most likely I'll be interacting with the high-end people. While in Alapere, we are looking at the middle. Apologies to the people in Ikorodu. It is not see finished. I just had to use it. I just had to use it to make my exam and to be able to pass my message across clearly. My apologies. I'm from Ikorodu. So the people in Alapere, the kind of people I'll be interacting with there, they are different. You know, the people in Ikoyi, I'm interacting with the who and who in Lagos. So let me now put the question back to you. Who are the kind of, what qualification do you think I'll be looking for? I'm looking for people that can handle high-end clients in Ikoyi. So it means that your English has to be polished. It means that your mannerism has to be intact. It means that you see, let's cut the long story short. I'm going to, most likely the people in Ikoyi will be graduates. They will be graduates. It is what it is. And the people in Alapere will be, I would have graduates, but you know, for my front desk officer, as long as I have an ND that is polished, that ND an ND that can present as he or herself in some light, I'm okay with it. It is what it is. That's why I said the context of your organization. It is not cast on stone, because we need to sit down, look inward. So what are we trying to achieve? Job analysis is also supporting the overall objective of the organization. It is not a standalone. Job analysis, it is not standalone. So when we ask ourselves those questions, it will help us to know the kind of people, the talent we want to bring on board. I hope I've been able to answer the question. So I'll go back to my job evaluation. So like I said, designing equitable grade and pay structure. Job evaluation helps you to arrange your jobs in hierarchy very well. So, you know, in this workplace now, where it is on first name basis, even the front desk officer is calling the MD by name. You know, if your job grade, your job hierarchy is not well structured, you would think everybody is the same mate. You know, everybody is not the same mate. We know ourselves. And one of the things that will help us to understand that is the job evaluation. Now, I want to throw a question to the house. What's the difference between when they say account executive and account officer? What's the difference? Please, I need answers. You can drop it in the chat, or you can, if you can, unmute. What's the difference? Job by account executive, account. Oh, okay. I'm not the one. Uzoma, you can log out, you can then log in again. So please, anyone that can, what's the difference between job officer, account officer and account executive? You people should answer me. I'm the only one talking. Kilo shele. Oh yeah. At least somebody should respond. Account officer and account executive. Okay, I will help myself then. So I will shock all of us. Even me, I just got to understand. Okay, depends on the company's organogram. Okay, yes, I agree. But so I like what someone said, because that's where I'm actually going, Gongo. Someone said, okay, that's not what job account executive handles accounting related function, while account officer manage account existing account, customer account. Okay, this one I'm confused. I don't know how to interpret this one, but let's move. An account officer might be more senior position, but okay. So my Oga has a brief summary for us. Account officer, account execs are often used in the context of business and finance, particularly in the field of sales and client management. While there can be some variation in how these roles are defined, depending, yes, here is the, okay, account officer is typically responsible for managing and maintaining relationship with existing clients. Okay, so yes, I agree with you. But sir, or should I shock you guys? My Oga does not agree with us with this definition. And when I saw that I didn't bother to just fight. I'm in a one-man business, so I didn't bother to just argue. Because for him, he was like, executive and officer are the same thing. That's his own interpretation, that they are both the same thing. And I was trying to explain that, and he was like, and this my Oga is well read though, all over the world. So I just didn't bother. Why did I bring up this conversation? I just want to reiterate what I've been trying to say, that the context of your organization is very, very important. What you call an executive in your place of work is different from what I call executive in my place of work. So when you're doing this job evaluation, these are the questions you need to ask. So if I'm using for my junior officers, if I'm using executive for them, it is in our context that we are using executive for them. Another organization might be using officer for their junior executive, for their junior management rather. They can be using officer for them. It is in their context. But all in all, what job evaluation does for us is it helps us to achieve equal pay for work of equal value. That is one thing we should take home. If we're not taking anything home, job evaluation, what job evaluation does for us is it helps us to determine each relative worth of the job role we have within our system. So the processes that are involved here in job evaluation, we'll still have to do gathering of job information. We will gather the job information, we will evaluate the job, then a place of quality assurance and review. Under step one, where we'll gather the job information, we have our job description. So we are looking at our job description, the profile. We are gathering information through questionnaire, through our organizational charts, where we have our organogram. That will give us a clear picture of what we are doing. I believe that even if you don't have your organogram documented in the pictorial form, by who is the supervisor, by the virtue of who is the manager, by the virtue of who is the junior officer, we already have a skeletal organogram. We just need to put it together, to structure it so that everybody gets to know where they fit in, where they belong, the level, the hierarchy they belong to in the system. So once we've gathered all the information needed, then we begin to evaluate that information. Now, we have the job evaluation matrix. We have the job. In this stage, we also have the job evaluation committee. We can have an external evaluation expert. Of course, we rank the job. This picture that we are seeing here, there is a whole lot. I hope Okay, please, do I still have a lot of time?
We have time for you. Today is today. You have to finish.
Okay, so in the job evaluation, because in my mind, when I was preparing this slide, I was just looking at the fundamentals. There are some things I didn't add to it that if I had added to it, my explanation here would have been would be more robust. But if I'm not able to explain everything, I think I would commit myself that, okay, I'll come back to do maybe a topic on job evaluation itself, because job evaluation, it's a bit it is also wide. Like I said, it's also a fallout from job analysis. So what you do in the process of job evaluation, you are evaluating each job. You're looking at each job. There are certain measurements, there are certain criteria you put into each job. So for example, someone who is I'll use, for the sake of this conversation, I'll use the word officer. Someone who is an officer with 3 years I'll use 1 year work experience, and someone who is a supervisor with 5 years work experience. I like to ask us, do you think they will be able to make decision at the same level? The answer is no. They can't make the decision at the same level. Someone who has 5 years work experience, and now when I say 5 years work experience, we know what work experience and what work experience is. I'm saying someone who has how do I put it? Because you see some people, they will tell you they have 5 years work experience, and from your interaction, you realize that, Oga, your work experience, everything just amounts to 1 year. It's not up to 5 years. So I'm talking of someone with real 5 years work experience. You can see someone with 2 years experience in their CV, and when you converse with them, when you have conversation with them, you realize that indeed this person has 5 years work experience. So, but in the context of what I'm talking about, we will just do with the normal 1 year and 5 years experience. They both have different level of decision making. One of the things the job evaluation will help you to do is you would know that someone who has autonomy to make decision and someone who still relies on someone to make a decision, they are two different people. And as a result of that, their levels are different. I think, yes. Okay, I don't have that slide here. So I think I'll come back at this stage, because I want to explain it such that we will be able to understand what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to say in job evaluation is, job evaluation helps you to understand that if I'm bringing in Omobola as a officer 2 into the organization, these are the certain decisions Bola can make. These are the certain mental skills, mental assertion that Bola can give to the job. Because the truth of the matter is, sometimes we envy the people at the top level because they make so much money. They earn so much money. And sometimes it looks as if they are not exerting so much energy. That's because what they are exerting is here. And this is way, way, way more expensive than the physical effort people exert at the lower level. That's why you see that at the lower level, it requires you to do a lot of physical efforts. So by the time you're moving to the level of supervisor, the game is changing. You are expected to bring in probably 50% of physical and 50% of the mental work. By the time you move to the managerial level, now at the managerial level, you are supervising, you are leading, pardon my choice of word, you are, okay, yes, I will use this one. You are working with people to achieve the aim and objective. You are not doing the physical work. Now you're telling people to do the physical work, you're supervising them, you're making sure that what needs to be done has to be done and is done to get the desired result. And while at the topmost level, all they are thinking is, how do I expand this business? Which area are we not looking at that we need to explore? What new markets, what new frontiers do we need to bring? Job evaluation will help us to determine people at that level. And remember, we said that it helps us to determine equitable pay, a fair pay for everybody. So because somebody who is bringing in, someone at the senior level, at the top level, who is bringing in, who will probably bring a business of 500 million into the business, and someone who is exerting physical energy, probably, okay, so they say, let me use my bakery example. Bring in, I'm just supposed to make 100 loaves of bread today. I make 100 loaves of bread. After then, nothing else. Whereas we have Mrs. Susan. Mrs. Susan will go to, so maybe Mrs. Susan will go to all these top tier catering outfits that, okay, when you guys want to cater for AGMs or you want to cater for big weddings and they are asking for pastries, or they're asking for, they want bread to be part of their menu. And Mrs. Susan goes to bring in deals like that. So imagine Mrs. Susan bringing deals from 10, 15 top personalities in Nigeria. This is different now. Mrs. Susan is using her head to bring in business, while me, I'm just doing 100 loaf every day. Mrs. Susan can bring in a deal in a month, and the deal is probably fetching us 15 million. It's fetching us 20 million because we are moving with the shakers, with the cream de la cream personality in the country. So it's different. Mrs. Susan is using her mental skills. She's using her mental efforts to deliver on the job. So those are the things job evaluation does for us. Now, in the step 3, job evaluation committee. So what this committee does is, so you have a set of people in the organization. Now, this set of people that you have when you're doing job evaluation, usually it is advisable that don't get people that are on the job, don't get them involved. So for example, you want to do job evaluation for, okay, I'm a front desk officer. I'm a front desk officer in my organization. And my company, okay, say, okay, let's do a job evaluation for all our job roles and see if we're actually paying them well or not. I'm not supposed to be involved. Yes, it is my job, but I'm not supposed to be. So these committees that we are talking about, the people that will conduct this exercise, are more like people outside my unit, outside my job role, outside me. And the reason is because if I'm involved, I can be biased because I understand what the company is trying to do. So I can make my job look like my job is important. I can make my job look like, okay, yes, I'm the real deal. I'm the big deal. After me, nobody else. That's the reason why it's advisable that you take the individual out of it. So you have people that are committees. So you can have somebody from two or three different units with the questions. So they evaluate the job. They say, okay, truly this job role requires a level of intellectual skills, a level of reasoning. This person should be able to make decision at this certain, as a front desk officer, there are some decisions I can make. There are some decisions that I dare not make it. I have to get approval from Oga. to make it. Same thing with managers. There are some decisions managers can make. There are some decisions managers will have to get approval. So that tells us the level of our decision making. At the CEO level, the CEO calls all the shots, except where a situation where the CEO reports to the board. So our level of decisions determine where our job role falls to. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's one of the things this job appraisal committee does. They examine the role of that job. They ask questions, pertinent, important questions to actually validate that, okay, this job should be placed at this level. This role should be placed at this level. That's what they do. So that's just a brief conversation around job evaluation. Like I said, it's still a whole lot, because trust me, this exercise can be draining. I've been involved in it, and trust me, it can be draining, because I think you have like 9 pointers. Yes, 9 pointers, or like 10. I can't remember now, that you'll be rating, you'll be giving marks to. And by the time you do, so it sums this up at the end of the day, then you know where that job falls into. Unfortunately, I didn't attach that document to this slide. So that's why I said, I think it's something I should come back to come and take the topic, but would have that conversation later. So job evaluation methodology. There are 2 approaches to job evaluation. So we have the market-based and the job content. So now the market-based approach is usually talking about you comparing your organization with another organization to see how well you're paying. So, you know, when people ask where I've seen places where people talk about that, okay, they want to know what the market rate is for this particular job role, or maybe probably ask that, how much do you pay this level in your organization? That is more of a market-based approach. So you're comparing yourself to another organization to see how fair. Okay, so probably maybe you are you are par with the market rate, or maybe you're low, or maybe you're high. So you hear that as some organization, they pay lots compared to their contemporary and other. Now, see, the truth of the matter is, when it comes to pay with organization, compensation with organization, the most important, one of the things that we should have at the back of our mind is the capacity for the organization to be able to pay that rate. You can't compare I'm not talking about tech startup, because we know the way their pay is, it's a bit the way it is. But a normal startup company, you can't compare their pay to a well-established organization. So that's why you get to see some organization, some job vacancy, they will say for a manager 150, and we will all be looking surprised. Some of us would even challenge it. Yes, I understand that seems quite low, but we also have to remember that that's what the organization can afford at that time. Because the question you want to ask yourself, what's the size of the organization that is asking for that is saying that I want to hire a manager for 150? When you see the size, when you see the scope of the business, when you see what they're doing, you probably come to a conclusion that, okay, I think this is fair enough. But that's not the focus of the conversation. I'm only just trying to explain. So for job content approach is what I focused on in this slides. And we just have four of them that are common. We have ranking method / pairing comparison ranking. We have the job classification. We have the factor comparison method. We have the point factor method as well. So 2 of them, like if you can see my slides properly, 2 of them is qualitative and 2 of them is quantitative. So the one I have experienced, that I have worked with I have practiced with my hand is the point factor, which was the one I mentioned earlier, that you have like 9 factors where you consider, you give them points, you give them scores. By the time you sum up all those 9, it tells you, the addition will tell you where that job role, the level where it falls to. That is one of the ways I know how to do job evaluation. So for ranking method, you just rank the job in order of priority in your organization. Please, I would like to say, organization differs. How it works in an organization, in an organization differ from each other. Now, see, if you're looking at well-established organization, I'm talking of the likes of multinationals and all that, the way they run this thing is even different, and it's actually big. It's very different and it's big. So this is just for our knowledge sake to understand. If we want to run a job evaluation, I would advise us, especially if we have not done it before, seek out someone who has done it before to run you through the intricacies, because trust me, there is a whole lot that goes into it. So you don't want to, you don't just want to do it yourself and you find out that, okay, I didn't do it well. It's advisable to look out for someone that has gone through this kind of exercise and they can handhold you and walk you through it. Okay, so that's just a brief explanation I'm going to give on this. Like I said, this is a fundamental class. It's not a master's class. So challenges in job evaluation. Now, when we're doing in job analysis, when we are doing job analysis, there are challenges we would encounter if we don't envisage them ahead of time. So now, one of it is you can be biased about the nature of job. Remember, I said that when you're doing job evaluation, because it's my job, I can make my job look important. That's a bias. Another one that can happen is, as a job analyst, I could feel that, okay, this job, biased nature of a job. Yes, I might not like, maybe because I've had issues with front desk officer being nasty, being rude and all that. If I'm not careful, I can bring that bias into the exercise. So I have to make sure that all my interaction, all my feedback, all my communication does not have any form of bias. And the thing about bias is, most times we don't even know when we're exhibiting those biases, except someone is able to detect it in us and show it to us. So another challenge is lack of support from employees. Now, if you want to engage in this exercise, it can throw people off balance, because it can send a communication that, is my job not important? Why are they doing this and this? So you need to communicate to people. You need to have their buy-in. They need to understand that it is actually for their job. It is actually for them. Because sometimes I've seen a situation whereby someone is doing like a 3-person's job all together, and not because they didn't have enough staff, but because boundaries were not clearly communicated. Jobs were not clearly designed. Jobs were not clearly stated out. So for such a person and the person is doing it with joy, the person is doing it with all gladness. For such a person, it might look like you want to take what they are doing away from them. So you need to communicate to them so that you can have their support. Management can be against you. Management can say that it is not important. Shebi, we are meeting our goals. Shebi, we are meeting our targets. And they say, no, it is not. But trust me, every organization, we need to have this in place. And the reason why we need to have this in place is for the health sake of the organization. Remember when we talked about the purpose, we said for when we are selecting, doing recruitment and selection. It helps us. It helps us to determine the performance of the job, on the job of the employee. It also helps us to determine the training needs necessary. It helps in shaping our job description, job description and job specification. So we just need to make a good business case. We just need to make the organization to be able to see the benefits in it. Another challenge in job analysis is when we use single data. If you remember when we talked about gathering information, I said we could have primary source and secondary source. And I also said that sometimes it might require that we use interview method, technique, or we use both interview and questionnaires, or we use both interview, survey, questionnaire, and as many techniques as possible. As much as possible, avoid using one single data source. Another challenge in job analysis is inability to identify the need for job analysis. See, as HR, if we are not able to identify why we should do it, then it's a challenge. So why do you want to exercise? Why do you want to engage in the exercise? If you want to engage in the exercise, that means there is a reason. You will have to know the why. The why would help you to know how you should go about it. In fact, it is even the why sometimes that will determine that, should I just do interview or I should just do observation? The why also will help us to know that, will help us to determine that if maybe the reason for our turnover over the years is because we are not paying very well. So why are we not paying very well? Maybe because we have not been able to do a proper job evaluation to determine the relative worth of our workforce for each of the each staff. Or maybe the people we are bringing into the organization, they are not the people we need. So all in the bid to say that my talents are top-notch people. You're bringing people with pardon me, like I want to say this thing. It's not an apology to anybody. Bringing somebody with Harvard certification when you cannot afford to pay for Harvard, people will leave now. People will leave. These are all the questions we need to ask ourselves. So some of the still on the challenges we can face. It is time consuming. As in, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. Lack of time consuming. It takes a lot of time. Standardization. It requires significant resources. It requires you interrupt people's daily routines. It interrupts normal work routine. So you want to ask yourself, are we ready for that? If we're not ready for that, I wouldn't say don't do it. I would say still just crack it. Think through. There is always another way to achieve it. There is always another way to do it. It's not always just one way of achieving things. So I wouldn't say don't do it. It means that you just need to still go back to the drawing board and still ask questions in your head, play it, walk through the process, walk through it over and over. You will figure it out. Something will crack. Also, subjectivity. When gathering data, you have to be very, very objective. As much as possible, remove biases. Anything that would bring subjectivity, it's always a challenge. It means we've lost focus on the objective. The objective, the goal has to be what we are seeing, what we are focusing on. So conclusion, job analysis is very, very crucial. It is part of HR management. It is part of our processes, what we need to be involved with as an HR professional. You know, like I rightly said, we could tie it to our compensation. We could tie it to how we keep our talent retention strategy. We could tie it to even creating employee experience, creating a positive work environment. We can tie, see, it depends on how creative we are. It depends on the angle, the perspective at which you're looking at it for, the different ways where channels at which you're looking at it for. So it is very, very critical. It also helps us to create accurate job description. As in, it helps us to evaluate employees' performance well. It helps us to assess employees. It helps us to optimize, if I can use that word. It helps us to harness, you know, an employee that has talent buried inside of them. It can help us to bring it out. It can help us to draw it out and bring out the best in that employee. It also, as in, when we do it right, it's a win-win situation for everybody. It's a win-win situation for everybody. And so I've come to the conclusion of my presentation. I hope with this few points of mine, I was able to convince and not confuse you further that job analysis is critical, is important, and it's needed for us to all engage in. Great. Thank you. Okay, so I've come to the end of the class. I'll be the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I have one or two questions. Meanwhile, if you have any questions quickly so that we can wrap up in 7 minutes or less, please drop on the chat box. You could also raise your hands, questions around the subject matter. My question, Madam Omobola, my first question, how often should you do job evaluation? Or what and what will make you say, okay, let's do job evaluation again? Thank you.
Okay, well, I think, so now, I want to answer that question, but what's coming to my mind is the size of the organization will determine how often we should do it. Because of the time consuming, the time involving having to do it, because I can imagine where you have job roles, I mean, and job grades that are like 10 upward. So the question is, you want to do everything? So it actually depends on the context of your organization. And like the part of the question you asked is, when should we, or when do you, how do you know when to do it? So for me, I'm tying it to some other aspect of HR. So maybe, for example, I noticed that, okay, I'm having high turnover, or when I do my my employee survey to feel the pulse of the employee, I'm beginning to see money issue or complain about on the job. Maybe people not feeling, feel they are not appreciated or valued on the job they are doing. Those are pointers to me. Just a minute.
Okay, so you may also want to say a few things around some of the bullet points. For example, know-how, for example, or accountability or impact. maybe you want to say something on any of those points as we wrap up.
Okay.
With respect to, job evaluation, with respect to job analysis, if any of those points, resonate with you.
Okay, so the accountability talks about the level of responsibility and authority associated with the job. Yes, like I mentioned, I said something that, okay, if as a front desk officer, there are decisions I can make. So I can decide that my front desk area is always tidy, is always conducive for clients, is always conducive for everybody. However, I can't decide if I should turn back a particular client. I don't have authority to do that. So it means that I need to defer to a higher authority who would say, okay, Bola, we are not expecting this person, or we can't take this job, decline the job. I can't do that because my level of authority has not gotten to that. So when I'm promoted to the next level, it comes with a certain level of authority, certain level of responsibility. So at that point, if I now go and meet my Oga to get for a decision I'm supposed to make. So for example, I should be able to decide that, okay, this kind of job, we should be able to take it. So let's say, very good. In some organization, you have level of approvals. So somebody that can approve a transaction of 1 million naira is different from somebody that can approve a transaction of 100,000. So as a Omobola, I can approve 100,000. Is within my jurisdiction, is within my authority. If I now take that 100,000 to my my manager to approve 100,000, my manager will be looking at me like, but Bola, you have your authority carries this. Why are you disturbing me with 100,000? So that's one of the things in job evaluation helps us to do. So I'm able to know my own level of authority. So I cannot go and say, because my Oga is not around, I want to approve a transaction of 1 million naira. My authority does not carry that approval. My authority does not carry that approval. Yeah. So those are so much. Yes.
Mrs. Ajoke Omotayo said, I'm reading from the chat box here. Okay, if the job roles are not changing consistently, there may not be immediate need to do job evaluation again. The focus might be then on reviewing the pay range mapped to each grade in line with economic realities. So One of the things we are just trying to highlight as we wrap up and close out tonight is that, for example, is also job analysis and job evaluation that determines the grade of roles. So it's possible that a front desk executive may be an officer, maybe a senior officer. It may be rare to see a front desk occupying the position of a manager. Mm-hmm. However, it may not be impossible that in a multinational or a very big organization, you may have a front desk that is a manager. Why? This person may need to take high-stakes decisions and may be, like our speaker said, interfacing with senior people. And the person, even though is sitting in the front desk, may also be doing other assignments, tasks that are not just front desk in nature. Okay, just to also put that out there. Then 2 or 3 people, like our facilitator said tonight, may be managers, but the level of accountability may differ. The level of know-how required for their jobs may differ. So someone may be on 5 M per year annum, another may be on 15 M per annum. Because what they are doing is slightly different, the impact on the organization. I wrap up with this example. If you look at it on a very pedestrian way, a pilot and an automobile driver may actually be the same thing. I'm looking at it at a very simplistic way. What are they doing? They are moving, okay, a device from one location to the other. However, the value of a car is not the same as the value of a plane. If a car has accidents, the impact of the accident may not necessarily be the same as the impact of an aircraft accident. So all these things come to play. Thank you so much. I don't know if you have any closing remarks, or we can just call it a night. You have done phenomenally well. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and many thanks to everyone who has joined this session tonight.
Thank you, everyone. It's a privilege. It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's a privilege. It's an honor to do it. So, like we all know that HR mentorship, reason why we do all this is just because we just want to keep reminding ourselves. So some of these things we already know it, but we keep reminding ourselves. We share our own experiences, our ideas. So please, we can still research further on the subject matter. It's what I shared tonight is just a bit, a fragment of what I know. There is a whole lot. And trust me, by the time you start doing that job evaluation, it's interesting. I found it very, very interesting. And I would encourage us all to just do a bit of research more. Okay, Emi, thank you. And apologies. I know this took a very, 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 very long time to deliver. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much for what you have done tonight. Thank you, everyone. Let's enjoy the rest of tonight. We'll be meeting again tomorrow evening for another session. Thank you and good night.